Welcome to our podcast, Firewalls and Flashpoints, the podcast that dives into the digital trenches and the global fault lines. Today, we want to talk about a political strategy, and this refers to a plan of action that can be used by politicians, governments, interest groups, or activists to achieve a specific political goal. This can involve influencing public opinion, gaining power, passing legislation, or managing relationships with stakeholders. So, what we are actually talking about, why we are talking about this today is because let's take, for instance, the recent events that are happening with political parties pivoting their strategies and what they think or what they believe can influence voters to give them the opportunity to manage the country. Now, the core ideas that we believe they should be using are those ideas that, for instance, could rebuild productive economy. So the core idea is to move from speculation economy, that is housing finance, to a productive economy of innovation, manufacturing, and green tech. So the talking key points here will be, let's make the country, or let's look at the needs to make things again. So incentives, advanced manufacturing, green industries, and regional startups. Introduce a national investment bank for small businesses or cooperatives that is focused on local wealth creation. Reform businesses rates and capital allowances to favor firms that invest rather than speculate. So the political angle in this is positioning yourself as a builder, not a blamer. This appeals to both, let's take for instance, the red wall voters or the younger professionals. Make work pay. So a new deal for working individuals. And the core idea here will be to reclaim the economic fairness agenda that focuses on wages, job security, modern work. And the talking points here is a country is insecure. Tackle 0-hour contracts, focus self-employment, and low pay. Be a champion of the living wage, guarantee tied to inflation and productivity. Simplify and reform the benefit system. Support trade unions, collective bargaining in modern sectors like care, delivery, and logistics. Here, the political angle will be a moral and economic argument. If you work hard, you shouldn't struggle to live. Reframes the cost of living crisis as a failure of economic design, not individual efforts. Create homes for the new generation. Turn housing from a wealth asset into a social foundation. So, for instance, build affordable homes, energy efficient and scale at a scale. Incentivize long-term private rental reforms and ownership for younger generations. Empower the local authorities with borrowing powers to build and own housing again. So the political angle here will be housing cuts across class lines. Renters, first-time buyers, parents, and struggling millennials is an issue which is ripe for leadership. Energy independence and the green dividend. Frame zero net as a national security and economic renewal strategy. Invest in homegrown renewable energy and grid upgrades and green jobs. Make energy bills stable by reducing reliance on volatile global markets. Back domestic energy storage, nuclear innovation, and clean steel. Now, the political angle here it will be take climate out of culture war territory and turn it into an economic patriotism message. For instance, British power, British jobs, British security, fair growth, an economic or an economy that works for everyone. The core idea is reclaim fiscal responsibility and fairness. What will be our talking points? Shift from short-term tax cuts to long-term growth investment. That is skills, infrastructure, research and development. Rebalance regional spending, more in the north, the Midlands, and less Whitehall control. Close wealth loopholes and end income carried interest while lowering taxes on productive work. Independent Office for Regional Prosperity to audit government investment by region. What will be the political angle here? Position yourself as an economic serious and regional fair, a credible alternative to some fiscal policies which haven't worked. Now we want to talk about skills, science, and sovereign. So what will be the core idea? Britain's growth crisis in a skills crisis. A national skills service to retain adults for high demand sectors. Replace university-only model with strong apprenticeships and technical colleges. Tie education funding to local economic needs. Create a tech sovereign fund to invest in Britain's AI, biotech, and digital industries. This appeals to aspirational voters and patriotic instincts, backing British talent, not cheap shortcuts. Now, we see most of our political leaders, they talk about immigration as a key theme for their leadership aspirations, but that is only a narrow narrative. Your framing pillars could be make, work, live, power Britain from within, fair growth with shared for everyone. Thank you for listening to our podcast. And if you found today's episodes helpful, please subscribe to our channel and tune in for more.